This is it. The 53-man roster is coming at you. By the time we record our next show, we will know who will be on the Chiefs 53. We're going to give you our final prediction today and go through everything that we know as of right now, today, live on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Let's say really quick, we may know by tomorrow when we do a show, but we may not. Chiefs are always notorious.
We're going to get to that. Relax. Good Lord. Welcome back, everybody. Yes, we're a little tense here. We're waiting for what this roster is going to look like. We're going to go through our prediction today. We appreciate you joining us live. If you happen to be right now on the YouTube stream, we very much appreciate you. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts in the live chat, like, sub, and hit that bell. Thanks for making us your first listen, just like you do every day for you everydayers. We are here for you 5 days plus a week is probably the best way we should put it. And we think you would find another Locked On show very entertaining, whether it's the national shows or the opponent shows or whoever you happen to like outside of your Chiefs Nation team. Lots to go over today. We're brought to you by Gametime. You can download their app right now called Gametime. Create an account and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. That's last-minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. We're going to get to a ton of it. The scenarios, what we think, what we know, what we would like that might differ from Andy Reid and co. And we're going to go through a bunch of scenarios today. You can text us if you want the immediate information when anything breaks it. 816-357-8781. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com and RGRfootball.com.
And I'm Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, and I actually just posted an article about a subject we'll talk about at the very end of the show, a little small update on Chris Jones. But I do have to smile and start with a interesting fact. I thought it was very entertaining that the WWE and the NFL now have championship belts that you can go buy for $550 a piece. Just had to share that with everybody.
Not this kid. Maybe Locked On can hook us up. I don't know. We'll find it.
Yeah. Still interesting, and I never thought I would see that day, but that's kind of cool.
I'm sure we're going to see a number of them now. That should be very entertaining. The numbers are what we're coming down to today, folks.
And I would just say that if the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Chargers want to go get one, I mean, that might be the only chance you haven't seen them, so go right ahead. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this started.
Is crying right now.
Yeah. I'm in a good mood. I'm having fun. We will answer a couple of questions at the end of this. I've already done my 53-man roster prediction, so I'm set to go whenever you are.
All right, let's start at the very top. I think we agree on this, but folks, if you cannot see your screen or if you happen to be listening on audio, make sure you go sub to the YouTube channel, because right now we're going to go through and we're going to give you the visual on what we have for our roster determinations. It's right here in a tool that I run from Rogue Analytics. You can get access to that online. QBs. I think we agree, but how many did you keep? And I'll tell you why you're wrong.
3.
Shoot. All right. And no joy there. Yeah, we agree. I don't think there's any way that you could get Buechele or Gabbert to the practice squad. It doesn't make sense to even try that at this point. I know they both threw interceptions in the last preseason game, but I don't think that tarnishes what they did in the preseason.
Somebody did point out it is possible to get Gabbert to the practice squad, and you potentially could do it. But the new rules don't really make it something that you would want to do, and I don't think Kansas City wants to go into the season with a chance that they could lose Gabbert. I think Shane had a good preseason for the most part. I think he struggled in week 3 a little bit, and that's okay. But I do think that they want to keep Gabbert, so I don't see them going to 2. I think they're going to keep 3. And it really doesn't matter to me who's 2 and 3 right now. And I don't know that we'll really even know throughout the season, because the big rule that changed was you can now carry 3 active quarterbacks and not count against your 46-man cap. That is a big deal.
Yeah, the 46-man is one thing. Having him on the 53 is still a requirement. So that's where the rub comes in. It's not quite as clean as we would like it to be. But we agree. You would have to have a sweetheart deal, and honestly, somebody's going to come along and offer Blaine Gabbert more money than that. I was just on with my friend Q this last week, and he didn't even know Blaine Gabbert was still in the league. I think that would catch some people by surprise, and I think you would have offers flying in at Blaine Gabbert. So that brings us to the running back position. And folks, we know the 2 big positions on offense we're going to have to discuss at large. But right now, I feel like this is pretty clean in that there's going to be 3 guys that play. Do you carry the 4th onto the 53 right now, or do you try to squeeze onto the practice squad and pull up if you need to?
Nope, I think you have to keep 4. I think you're going to lose LaMichael Pirine, if you cut him. I do think that he did enough in the preseason to show that he belongs on a roster. Though Matt Derrick would argue that running back is so deep and so undervalued, who knows?
Well, I would go 3 myself, but we're going to see how the rest of the math works out because that's important. Matt and you seem to understand that like you can move things around, but attrition is attrition. So before we get to the big 2 positions, which we're going to cover in our next segment, let's jump ahead a little bit. Who's earned their way onto the roster at the tight end spot? And how much are we projecting that is a position of slack or a position of pull up from the practice squad as well?
So really quick, I do want to put in there that it's Pirine, it's Pacheco, McKinnon, and Clyde. So just in case anybody's wondering, those are my 4. And I'm guessing you're saying Pirine is not going to be on the roster. Would be the one you take off.
I'm saying, yeah, I think you can get Prince and Pirine to the practice squad and be happy.
Cool. Just wanted to talk about that really quick. So when you start looking at tight end, I think you're going to have – this is where it gets tricky. Do you have 3 or do you have 2? I don't think they're keeping 4 this year, especially with keeping 7 wide receivers. So I'm going Kelsey, Gray, and Bell with the potential of it just being Kelsey and Gray if they decide that they need to use a IR spot on somebody.
I think it has to be 3. I know they want to run triple sets. There's no way you can do that, obviously, without 3 on the roster. And I think I would probably go 4. So we would have switched those particular positions just in order for attrition and to be able to do what we think they want to do. Maybe that plan is changing. We won't know until we hear from Andy Reid. But the other thing that we won't know until we hear from Andy Reid is what's going on at the wide receiver spot and what is going on at the offensive line spot. And offensive line is a sweet spot for Andy. And I don't know that that's a place that I think that they can get away with pinching, but we're going to find out. I think that either way, when you see the product on the field, it's going to be a team that can put protection in front of Patrick Mahomes and going to give him weapons. What that's going to look like depends on which game you go to. And if you need some help, our friends at Gametime are going to help you out. It's gametime.co, or you can go to the app stores. And this is the app that takes the stress out of getting tickets. I use them when I am able to come in town last minute or any other time, really, in order to get that kind of deal that I know can apply right this second. It relieves the stress for me because when you're coming from out of town, you're making a whole trip and you got to time it all right and the flights are crazy. Why not take it easy on yourself and get the best deal that you can on the tickets? And that is what Gametime is for. So right now, you can forget all that planning in advance, forget all the stress. Their guarantee means that you're always going to get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section, in the same row, for less, your Gametime is going to give you the credit of 110% of the difference. So plenty of reasons to get there and get in with Gametime so you can get the best seat for the best price. So you can also get some images of the seats. You can expect when you're going to arrive. It's super quick and fast to get that done. A couple of taps and you're out the door with your tickets literally in hand in your phone. So snag those tickets with Gametime right now. Just go download the Gametime app. You can get it at the stores. You can get it at the site. Create an account and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase of tickets. Terms do apply, but you have to go create the account right now and use our code LOCKEDONNFL to get that $20 off. Gametime, get it today. Last minute tickets, the lowest prices, guaranteed. Now, what's not guaranteed, Andy has hinted at this, but it's not guaranteed that they go 7 wide receivers. I think I know what you and I are going to do, but just like knowing Andy Reid and how long we've covered him, yes, folks, we are starting year number 7 right now. So thanks for being with us. If you're not, like sub, hit that bell and get on the audio platforms on Spotify and Audible as well. Audible, Apple as well, all of it.
Out there everywhere.
Knowing what we know, do you think this is the year that he truly does depart from his normal process? And does he go 7 wide receivers?
I think so. I really just don't see how you go less unless you're going to cut a guy that we don't think is cuttable right now in Justin Watson or, Richie James. I don't think either of those guys are going to be somebody that they're going to cut. So I think they have to go 7. Brett Veach said pretty much as much during the broadcast that Justin Ross is going to be on this roster. So I think that they have to keep 7 wide receivers. And I think I threw this out last night, and if I didn't, I apologize. There's potential that they could go 8 if you get into a situation where you think Tony is going to go on IR. Maybe you try to keep ISM, but I only think they're going 7.
I do not think there's a possibility of 8. I am cautiously optimistic that there's 7. I actually think because of right now, as we're recording this, and for those of you that are live with us right now, no moves have been announced for the Kansas City Chiefs as we record this moment. So if you're watching this on replay, don't leave me in the comments, hey, you guys didn't talk about this, because it hasn't happened yet, okay? I think they're working some trades, and I think the wide receiver position is part of that trade concept. Do they have bites? I don't know, but we're pushing 23 hours now until we're going to know what this roster should look like initially. And right now, I think that that's probably one of the things that they're discussing. So 7 is the absolute max for me. I actually think that there is a possibility that Andy Reid bites his tongue and goes down to 6 based on some of the other positional needs that they have. And that starts and ends with the offensive line. So we'll put it at 7 for right now. We're looking at 25 is going to take 8. We're going to have to go to 26 if they keep 9 at this position. Where are you at?
I just want to finish my thoughts on wide receiver. I disagree with you. I think 8 is not a great possibility, but I think it's possible. Mainly because if you are trying to make a trade, you can still cut a guy like Blake Bell and still end up getting everybody else on the roster and maybe have an extra day to do a trade and bring Blake Bell right back. So you have that potential with a guy like that. I have, let's see, on my projection, I have 9.
You have
4 tackles, 4 guards, and 1 center.
Who are those 4 tackles, by the way?
Obviously the starters, and then Prince Tegawanago and Wanya Morris. And I think Lucas Niang is either traded or cut.
I agree with that portion of it. I do think Lucas Niang is on the trade block right now. Did he perform? Did he get reps with the 2s in the last couple of weeks? Yes. I think what you see, though, is that the progression in the injury history, and that's probably the thing that might not bring you value for him. But I think it's also the thing that you see that despite Wanya Morris needing work, especially in being able to attack and protect his outside shoulder against the speed attack, it's the opposite for Lucas Niang, and I think he's not dealing with power as well as he used to. I think the injury is there a little bit. So I agree. He could be shopped right now, and I have the number at 9 as well. I think there are a number of variations there. Could they keep all those tackles and go down very, very low for only 1 interior backup and Nick Allegretti? Maybe, but Nick's hurt right now. So it depends on I think the prognosis of that injury as well. Do you think that is in play at all, only going with 1 interior backup?
I don't see it, especially if Allegretti's not going to be healthy enough to play. I mean, that's the big question. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks. We don't know where his injury status is, if he'd even be available for the first game. So to me, I think you have to go to interior. And the reason I think that you feel better about going to interior is Kennard can play right tackle. It's not pretty, but he could if you absolutely needed him to, and it would get you by.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes some sense. So on the opposite side of the line, you have to have some defensive tackles to combat them, and that makes perfect sense. How many do you have the Chiefs keeping?
5.
5.
And Chris Jones in my account is not on the roster at this point, so he does not count as one of those 5.
And so is that part of the reason why you ended up going 5 is because one of them is not Chris Jones and you might have to rotate in order to get that pass rush?
That's part of it. And I think that they don't know what they are going to do at defensive tackle right now. So I'm looking at projection as of roster when it is supposed to be set tomorrow at 3. I'm not necessarily looking at what it's going to be week 1 because there's too many variables that we don't know.
We talked yesterday about Turk not playing a ton of snaps, right?
Yep.
I assume he's one of your 5 and you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, Noddy and Warden are my starters. Keandre Coburn, Danny Shelton, and Daniel Wise are the 3 backups that I've got.
Okay. I think that tracks. That's okay. I would be tempted to keep 4 because of the next position that we are about to talk about. So if you're keeping 5 there, I assume you're keeping 5 ends as well.
No, I'm only keeping 4.
4 edges. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to have a meeting of the minds here because this is the way I would have laid it out. In fact, I should have just put 2 columns in here so that you have yours and I have mine. But
it would have made it easier, but it is, it is what it is. And I get why you're going 5. I just really don't know that they feel like they can keep 5 right now. Did BJ Thompson do enough to earn a roster spot? I don't know. I don't think Kando did. And BJ Thompson is the other guy that I left off my roster. I've got Karlaftis, Dana, Herring, and FAU as my 4. And this is also a position where I think we've talked about this multiple times. They could be looking outside the organization to try to add somebody else.
Absolutely. I agree. And, I do want to preface this that I kept Amenahue on the 53 because of
I did
not include the suspension. Fair enough. Okay. So you have it 5 and 4. I obviously am a little bit different, but you're a man ahead at this count right now. I only see 5 linebackers on this roster. Do you disagree?
Nope.
Okay.
Cochran's on the roster as the 5th. The other 4 are pretty obvious. So,
yeah, I know there was a slight injury to Cochran. I don't think it's going to be anything that keeps him off of the roster. Cam Jones is my guy. I want to see him back on the practice squad, but I don't think he's ready for the 53 right this second, and he is coming off of a concussion in this last preseason game against the Browns. So that brings us right now. We are at 43. We have 10 spots in the secondary as a collective. You and I would have arrived to the pretty much a similar number here without much ado. Where do you have the split right now, safety versus corner? We're going to talk about that coming up next. So things are starting to happen. We're getting down to the bottom of this roster, and how do you squeeze it all in? If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do, because we're here 5 days a week for you. We very much appreciate your time. We'd like to see your comments down on the comments section if you're watching this on review. Again, we are live before any movement has been announced for the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going through our final projections for this 53. We've got narrowed down to where we think the numbers are going to fall, but nothing set in stone. We still have 10 spots available. Where do you have the corners versus safety split right now? Is it even? Or do you have more corners than safeties?
Yep. I have 6 corners and 4 safeties.
Okay. Who are those 4 safeties?
Justin Reed, Brian Cook are the starters. Chamari Connor and Mike Edwards are your backups.
Okay. I tend to agree with you completely. And this is not a slight against Deion Bush and his contributions to special teams, but I think Andy may disagree with us. And this is one of the things where I was saying, if it comes down to the crunch, can Andy really take 7? He has not done that in the past on the wide receiver position, especially if he feels he needs that special teams crutch to have maybe 11 DBs. That would be something where you could flip a similar position to the same role on special teams. But I agree with you. Has Deion Bush not played well enough, or is it just a numbers crunch for you?
I think it's a numbers crunch, and I think Mike Edwards gives them better safety play, and he can play special teams. And I think you're going to get special teams play out of the wide receiver, even though it may not be as good as what Deion Bush can give you. I would also argue that it's potentially possible that maybe Deion Bush is the guy you could add to your practice squad and bring back. That I think could be a possibility there. And I have to ask you the question. You keep going back to saying that Reed could only keep 6. Who are you cutting if he only keeps 6 at wide receiver?
Well, I'm not cutting anyone. My concept here is that they've managed to pull a trade of someone. I don't know who that would be.
Gotcha.
But I think when he says, hey, it's 6 or 7, I just keep going back to history. And while he does evolve, I have trouble being 100% that Andy's going to keep 7. I think they should, but I'm just trying to keep it open to what the possibilities are.
And I get all that, but my argument against you would be that generally speaking, they've kept 4 tight ends and they've also had a fullback. So we're losing 2 offensive positions in that regard when we're sitting here looking at this. So to me, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but we'll see.
I'm with you. I do want to say, Doug, thank you. I'm glad you're having fun, because this has been an argument back and forth for a couple of days. So we appreciate you being here for the finished product. Mostly we are live, so you never know what's going to come out. But hey, I think we're good on safety. So then it comes down to the final competition. I have L'Jarius Sneed on this roster. I think he has to be week 1. If we get some kind of news that his knee has not recovered enough and he has to go to IR before the 53, that means he's out for the year. I do not see that happening. Do you?
No, I don't. That's why I went 6 Corners. You have multiple injury questions at the corner position, and I think that's why you actually go deep there. And it's a situation where we've talked about it. Maybe a guy like Danny Shelton, maybe a guy like Blake Bell, they don't make the original roster, and you end up going deeper at another position, and you put a guy like L'Jarius Sneed on IR for the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean, that's potentially possible. I don't like it. I don't expect, and I will also say I don't expect it because he dealt with this last year and he played through it. I can't imagine that they're not going to let him play through it this year, but we'll see.
Okay, so imagine we're correct. We both feel that there's 6. We've gotten to the magic 53 number. Folks, this does include the 3 specialists. As of now, in the NFL, there's still going to be 3 specialists. I do think that could change in the future, but I'm just saying. So let's get down to the nitty gritty of it. We both have L'Jarius Sneed on here, but who rounds it out? At the top, I have Sneed, Watson, and Trent McDuffie as the starters on day one, again, without having to do any gymnastics with Sneed. Just imagine he's going to be ready to go. Do you agree with that?
No, I put Williams at 3, but they're both
Williams
still on the roster. I don't really think that matters. Watson's going to be on the roster regardless. They're both going to play, and I just don't think Watson has really gotten much better than what he was last year. But he's a gamer, so it's a question whether or not they believe that he can come in and really help in games. I mean, that's really going to be the big thing there, and I don't feel great about it. The only thing that also makes me curious about Jalen Watson versus Josh Williams is, are they going to have Sneed play nickel? Because if they don't, neither of those guys are coming in. If they have Sneed on the outside, you're going to have somebody else come in and play the nickel position because I don't think you're going to have Trent McDuffie there.
I actually think they will. It seems like that Spags is comfortable with that. I don't know. Right now,
With
it feels like
McDuffie
it is
at nickel?
Yes.
Okay.
That feels like the way that they want to go. Whether they get there or not, I do think that. And that does allow for a 1-for-1 swap for Sneed for either Williams or Watson. And I feel like Williams and Watson have the same preseason. I don't feel like either of them have improved a whole lot. So I am relying on that gamer possibility because I do think Jalen has shown up a little bit more than Joshua has. Not that can't flip, but that's kind of where our difference is.
I'm also looking at snaps and what they showed in the preseason. It looked like Williams was playing a little bit more with the first team than Watson was. So that's kind of where I am. But both those guys are going to be key, and they're going to be probably gunners on special teams. So it's not really going to matter. I think they're both on the roster regardless. So you're really talking about the next 2 guys that are going to be the real big question marks.
And here's the really interesting part. And I tried to point this out yesterday. And folks, if you missed yesterday's show, go back and check that out because I broke this down a little bit farther. But the question then becomes, who are the last 2? If we're keeping 6, and you and I agree that it should be 6, Nick Jones is not going to have surgery, but we don't know if he's able to play anytime soon. You had guys that stood out and got first-team reps with Eko Boyodo and Khalif Alasi. And then yesterday, the dark horse of dark horses, Taylor Reese showed up and was blitzing out of the nickel. He was being effective. He's been kind of one of those guys that I've been waiting to see it, and boom, game 3, he kind of pops. Could he have moved himself into position to be one of the 6?
It's possible. I would say that it's possible that he could be the 6th guy. I don't have him as my 6th guy, but it's possible he could be. Nick Jones is going to be on the roster. That's 5. So who's your 6th?
For me, right now, it's Nick Jones, and then it's Halasi. Because I do think he brings the mentality and the physicality that you're looking for to continue that trend of Sneed to Watson to Williams to Halasi. I think you can see that train. But I agree with you on Nick Jones. If healthy and able to play, I do think he'll be on the 53. If they think that he doesn't need surgery, but he's going to be out for a bit, they could do the short-term IR with him as well, in which case I would be tempted to go to Reese Taylor because of the nickel play. I don't think Eko can play inside. That's just my personal opinion, but who do you have as the last 2? Nick Jones and
Halasi.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that and I'm going back probably to preseason game number 1 where he stood out. That interception was incredible. And yeah, I understand who he's getting it against, but the point is he made plays when he had the opportunity. He didn't look bad in the next 2 games either. So I still think that his size is something that they're going to like, and I think that that's the direction they're going to go if they keep 6 DBs.
Okay. So if something goes wrong with one of those guys, who's 7 for you? Who's the guy that you bring in as the backup's backup?
Man, that's tough. I see what you're saying about Reese Taylor. It could be that, but Boydos seemed to be the guy that they were really thrown in there a lot, but he just doesn't seem to have really the size. I mean, he's pretty skinny, and I think that a year in the strength system could really help him. But maybe they go that direction. That's why I put 6 corners, is because you have 2 guys that have injury questions right now.
I'll give you guys a little peek behind the curtain. Couldn't just tweet Reese Taylor and echo Boydo, because I agree. He has put in some good snaps, and I can see it from here. So I got together with my daughter, who does rock, paper, scissors the best, and she won 2 out of 3. So it was Reese. So it could be that close. And I think this is probably a conversation that's still going on with inside the building right now.
Well, it's also possible that they end up only keeping 5, or they keep 6 and they decide to trade a guy away like Colossi or Reese Taylor if other teams like what they saw from him. There's multiple different positions on this roster where people could be looking to trade right now and get Chiefs players. And really quick, I would look at Deion Bush. I don't think that you get a lot, but if somebody is looking for a core special teams guy and they don't have a good fourth safety, that could be somebody that's looking. Because really, the biggest problem most teams are going to have is the Bears are going to get the first – are going to be up there, and they're going to be getting all the Chiefs players. So if you can't beat Chicago in that regard, I think that you're going to be looking elsewhere. You start looking at, I don't know, the defensive tackle I wouldn't agree with, but wide receiver, Amir Smith-Marset, we've already talked about him. I think that's, possibly they're going to be looking at trading him. It's possible they could be looking at trading Prince Tegawadago and keeping Lucas Niang. I mean, in theory, it's possible. Mike Caliendo's another guy that has played decently on the offensive line. There's lots of different guys. And we've also talked at times, maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the trading block. It doesn't save him much cap space, but it's possible.
Yeah. Now, folks, make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell here on YouTube so you know when we go live, because we're going to do this sporadically throughout the season as well. Not just today, although we are live now. We're going to take a couple of your questions to wrap up the show. So if you would, hit that thumbs up right now. Get subbed over on Spotify and Audible and Apple and every audio platform you can find, because we're free on all of them every single day. And if you are watching this on replay, leave your comments, your thoughts on this 53 and who you'd like to see down in the YouTube comments or over on the reviews on Spotify and Apple. So real quick, what are we going to do about the run D from Brian Gales? We can't be giving up 4 yards a carry. And unfortunately, I think Steve Spagnuolo would beg to differ. I think he's way more worried about getting burnt in the pass game.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think that they will take getting gashed on run defense. I don't think that that's going to be something that they're really going to be worried about. And it's mainly because you're in a situation where, look at what the Chiefs did on offense in the preseason. They were the number 1 offense in the preseason. Their backup QB in Blaine Gabbert threw the most touchdown passes in the preseason. Yes, it's preseason, but this offense still is cooking, and I think it could cook even more with the players they're adding right now.
Yeah, I can agree with you. Terry Mitchell, thank you for yours. Chris Jones is still in KC. When's he showing up for the extension? I'd love to tell you. I tried to jinx it last night. It didn't work.
Well, I'm going to have you jinx it again before we sign off today. So just so you know, that's coming. This does lead me to something that I wanted to put out there. I just wrote a quick article about this. Albert Breer pointed out something in the CBA that I had missed. If Chris Jones doesn't show up by tomorrow, they put him on the do not report list. The big thing there is they still have the ability, if he doesn't show up by tomorrow and is on the do not report list, even if he shows up right before the game on Thursday, they could ask for a roster exemption for him for up to 2 weeks and not have to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be another almost $2.2 million in cap space that they would free up by not paying him and keeping him with the roster exemption. And that becomes a multiplication effect, because you're looking in 2024 with your possible franchise tag, it'd be almost 2.6 million based on that 2.2. So he's losing money. If he shows up week 8 and he's lost over $10 million, he could lose another 2.2 with nothing that he can do about it.
Losing money does not seem to bother him at this point. I think we'll just be happy when it happens, if it happens, and we'll go from there. Terry also had a great question. Are they sending Clyde to the Vikings? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's sticking, but we'll see.
I just don't think you're going to get return even from the Vikings. And is Madison hurt? Is that what it is?
Well, it's just that they don't have Dalvin Cook anymore,
Depth.
and
Right.
so I think
Okay,
that's
fair
part of
enough.
it.
From Doug, are you guys a little concerned with the backup O-line?
I'm not. At least interiorly, I think Allegretti can get it done for a game or two. I'm not going to say that the tackle situation isn't going to be rough, but the problem is you're not going to have a great 3-tackle system or 4-tackle system in the NFL. Offensive linemen in the NFL are very few and far between.
I'm a little concerned about the injury to Allegretti. Let me put it that way. But I will say this. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. I think they'll probably try to keep Kennard. I don't think that's going anywhere. And I think Caliendo and my guy Hardy, I was impressed the way that he progressed through the preseason. He needs a year. But those guys can both get to the practice squad, and I think you'll have the availability to pull them if you need them. So I'm not too concerned.
And another thing in this, I don't think it's not going to play into this year, and it probably won't play into 2024. But I also read that they could give Godric a roster exemption on the practice squad and maybe have 17 guys on the practice squad. I would really consider that from what you saw from him in the preseason, to just give him a year in an NFL system to see if he can progress. That's the big key. From not playing at all to what he was able to do on the field, I think is pretty impressive.
I like that idea. I think that could definitely work in their favor. Thank you, Doug. And Taylor, you're our last question of the day. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you're subbed. It's going to get hot and heavy here, and we'll go live when we know something about Chris, when we hear any major cuts and cut downs, and you're going to hear from Matt tomorrow as we hit the deadline. So be prepared. If Jones and Amenahue aren't going to count against the 53 as cuts, do we need to maintain position depth, or can we use to give other players a better chance to clear waivers late, like ISM? As far as I know, Jones can go, and you don't have to do the rigmarole, but you do have to have a Amenahue on the 53 initially, right? Before he can go to the suspended list?
Nope.
No?
Same as Jones. Suspension goes the same day. So Amenahue does not have to be on the roster and will not be on the roster, won't count against it. So, yeah, you could take, deeper at other positions. I still don't think it's a way that they get ISM on the roster, but we'll see.
Okay, fair enough. It leads to even more scenarios, and that's where I think you have to keep an eye not only on the Bears. Yes, they do get first pick. I think the Colts are out there. I think Doug Peterson's down in Jacksonville with a team that I think can really rise this year. He's going to be looking for any cast-offs from Kansas City as well. And we all know the Eric Bieniemy's already looking. So whatever you don't protect, I do think you're going to lose if it's not, at a position of need for someone else. I think the linemen are probably in good shape. Skill positions, I think they're up for grabs on both sides of the ball.
Really quick, I'm going to do a lightning round because there are a couple of really easy questions to answer. So this is asking whether Shelton is like Blake Bell. Yes, he is. It's possible he could be cut and brought back the exact same day. No, they shouldn't trade for Darnell Mooney. The receiver position is still pretty set. And Chris Jones holds out until week 8. He loses $20 million. Potentially, he will lose $10 million just holding out to week 8. But he could lose $20 million because it's going to cost him on a potential franchise tag in 2024.
Yeah, so to be very specific, this year he would lose 10 in addition to the 2.2 he's at in terms of fines so far.
He's already he's at 1.8, but he's lost 2.3 because he has a $500,000 workout bonus that he's not going to get. So He's really at 2.3 right now. He'd be closer to like 13. No, it'd be a little over 10 million, maybe 11 million. This year, and then you multiply that by 1.2 and you take that off the potential franchise tag in 24. So that would be another 11 million or 12 million or $13 million that he would lose out next year.
And I just want to throw this out for everybody who's seen my social media. My guy is out there. Derek Parrish, the fullback / pass rusher from Houston, was released and will be available. So I do want to see the Chiefs pick him up and bring him onto the practice squad. I don't think you're going to have to use a waiver claim to do it. So I just want it out there so that there's one in-house. If you need him, Derek Parrish should be a Chief. I want to say that out loud.
And really quick, Watson is not like Bell. And we're talking Justin Watson because he had actually guaranteed money. So he's not like Bell in that regard. He has a 2-year contract. Bell and Shelton have 1. Sorry, I'm done. Say your last piece that it's not going to get done, and let's get out of here.
Again, folks, for the sarcasm, for my track record of miscalling contract extensions, I'm just going to say, for the sake of all of Chiefs Kingdom, Chris Jones' deal is not going to get done before the 53-man roster. Check back with us for an update. We very much appreciate you. Thanks for spending your time with us today. Matt Derrick's with us tomorrow to give us his insight on where we're at roster-wise, and we'll have the countdown if anything crazy happens. Thanks for spending your time with us today. Like, sub, hit that bell, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.